Hi, welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name is Colette and I'm here to do a reading for an astrology reading, intuitive astrology reading for the sign of Pisces today. If you've been to my channel before, you will know that I've kind of split up the astrology and the tarot, whereas I used to do it all in one, but it was taking too long for me to actually upload them and actually to do the videos themselves as well. So I've decided to separate them into two halves. So the Pisces tarot reading has already gone up on my channel, and I'm now going to do the astrology, intuitive astrology reading. For anybody who hasn't visited my channel before, welcome, hi, thanks for being here. And so this reading is basically, I'm going to base it around the new moon that just happened in Sagittarius. The new moon and the sun were both at 0, 5 degrees and 10 minutes, which is why they're conjunct, because they're both in the same place, and that's why you get the new moon. And you can't actually see the moon. And the energy of the new moon lasts for 14 days. So the full moon will be occurring on the 16th of December in Gemini. So up until that point in time, the moon will still be, the new moon will still be in play. So in the the new moon in Sagittarius for you Pisces has taken place within your 10th house of Capricorn, because these astrology readings are to do with going through the houses and where each of the signs were. And before I forget, I will also say that there will be a link for a free astrology chart in the description below for anybody who wants to take a deeper dive into their own astrology and maybe find out where your planets and your houses in particular are. Okay, so the new moon in Sagittarius has recently taken place in your 10th house of Capricorn, which is bringing a new message of hope and belief for something bigger, better and brighter to build in the future. The now, which is yet to come. The moon, Venus, Sun and Jupiter, which is still conjunct the galactic centre, or it was at the time of the new moon. Jupiter was still conjunct the galactic centre, which was kind of giving it a huge new kind of download of information, which is what the galactic centre is basically. The galactic centre is the point where our galaxy connects with the universe out there. So our little galaxy, which to us seems really huge anyway, is also connected to this huge universe out there that we know very little about still. And the energy comes through this galactic center point, and Jupiter, having been in its own sign of Sagittarius, every 12 years it goes past this galactic center, and it's like it gets this new information and new downloads for the next 12 years of its journey. It happens to all the planets, but the outer planets, being so much more slower, it has a more meaningful and longer lasting effect, and kind of builds up, if you like, on the energies that are yet to come into play as we move ahead into our future. So Jupiter has just gone through this kind of cleansing in some way, this kind of cleansing of its old energy that it's had for the last 12 years. So it's about to start its new cycle with this new outlook and this new kind of brightness and light that's just been given to it. So yeah, it's a bit like an adrenaline shot really for Jupiter, which it's going to need as it moves into the house of Capricorn. So yeah, the more practical, stable, concrete and harsh and more realistic sign of Capricorn, which it has already just moved into. It moved into Capricorn yesterday, and Venus moved into Capricorn last week as well. Yes, it's harsh, realistic side of Capricorn, the 10th house energy, which is pushing and breaking down these walls. That's really what this kind of Sagittarian, new kind of optimistic, more hopeful, more kind of positive, shall we say, because Jupiter is a very positive, very expansive, very kind of gift giving. It's a kind, it brings the gifts, does Jupiter. It brings the kind of optimism and hope for something. And in Capricorn, it's very much about kind of building on this new dream that is coming. So it's pushing down those walls and breaking through those boundaries, because that's a very Sagittarius thing as well. Sagittarius doesn't like to be enclosed. It doesn't like to be kind of feel trapped. It needs its freedom. It needs its expansiveness. It needs to be able to journey beyond the boundaries. It pushes beyond the boundaries. It's kind of like the how can you put it, the kind of explorer, I suppose, that goes to places that other signs may not necessarily want to kind of go into that territory. And it's also saying lighten up in Capricorn. It's also, because Capricorn is such a serious sign, it's kind of saying to Capricorn, the house of Capricorn, kind of like, you know, it's time to lighten up a little bit. It's time to have some fun. Don't forget to have some fun and stop being so serious and let the light in. Maybe build some windows in that tower in order to be able to see all the stars. So that's the message for the new moon. And then in your first house, Pisces, which is Aries, the first house of Aries, you have Neptune, of course, because it is in your sign. So the sign of Pisces is your first house, which is ruled by Aries and Mars. So in your first house of Aries and your own sign of Pisces, Neptune has just awoken, your own ruling planet, has been sleeping for almost half the year. Since June 21st, summer solstice, Neptune went retrograde, but now is stationed and ready to move direct. And for those last 5 months, Pisces, you may well have been feeling a state of confusion and lost at sea. You may have been sensing a deep unease about your life and your needs not being met. Possibly like you were being pulled in all different directions and overstretched to the limit, to the point where your own boundaries were becoming vaguer and vaguer. Now, as Neptune turns in a new direction, so too can you. Now you will begin to make sense of the last 5 months, and like dynamic Mars, you will cut off what no longer fits in your world. As you awaken to a deeper understanding of your own psyche and subconsciousness, or subconscious, and how it can best work for you. So it's really all about kind of tuning into that subconscious realm, that realm that is beyond the kind of day-to-day world, day-to-day living, day-to-day life. It's the psychic realm. It's the realm of kind of things that we sense and we feel, but we don't necessarily, we can't kind of grasp them. They're not it's not a tangible realm, the subconscious realm. It's a realm, like I say, beyond. And Neptune being your ruler, Pisces, you'll know all about that. But if you've had trouble kind of trying to make things happen for you, if you've had trouble trying to kind of bring the new into being, it's because Neptune has been retrograde for all that time, and it's now kind of saying sorry about that, the throat went a bit funny. It's now kind of saying that dream that you kind of had 5-6 months ago, that you had to kind of put on the back burner and kind of possibly be more involved in the day-to-day things in life, kind of like focus on more of the day-to-day details and not be allowed to kind of bring that dream into reality. It's saying that this is the time when these things are going to change, where it's going to shift, and you're going to see a shift happen, and you're going to be able to actually make your dream become more real than it has been so far. The second house of Taurus is the sign of Aries, which has the wounded healer Chiron at 0.1% 32 seconds retrograde, almost at the very start of the zodiac. Chiron is bringing in a new beginning of healing the wounded parts of ourselves in this placement of Aries in second house. It's like the emotional toddler who needs to learn to value itself. At the moment, Chiron is kind of going retrograde, and it's almost going to go right back to the very beginning of the zodiac. It's going to turn direct, I think, in January. I think it's Chiron that turns direct last. I might be wrong there. I need to check that out. But it's going to reach 0.1 degrees before it stations, before it stops retrograding, before it stations direct. And it's so close to being at the very beginning of the zodiac again. And because it's the wounded healer, and because it's in Aries, it is all very much about the kind of inner child, shall we say, the inner child, the needs of the inner child, and whether or not those needs were met as a child, whether as a baby, really, rather than a child. It's more about the baby, the needs of the baby, and whether or not your needs were ignored, and the kind of patterning and the programming and the conditioning that kind of brought in on its own. Because even as a baby, we are kind of learning from the moment we take our first breath, really. We are kind of learning about, even on a subconscious level, and that realm of kind of, you know, if our needs aren't met and it doesn't feel good, there's kind of this angst and anxiety, and we don't, like as a baby, we don't know why, we just feel it, but we don't know. But that can carry through with us right into our adult years as well. So we get the same kind of response and trigger reactions as well. So when these things kind of come up for us, it can trigger a same response to our needs, and we may feel that our needs, you know, we're not worthy of getting our needs met, we don't need to have our needs met because we don't deserve to have our needs met. All those kind of trigger points can kind of bring up these issues within us and these kind of traumas that may have occurred early on in our very early days, when we can't voice what we need, we can't express how we feel. All we can do, well, we can express it, but we can only express it by crying, and then kind of just hope for the best. Hope that somebody's going to look after us, hope that somebody's going to give us what we need so that we're fed, so that we're warm, so that we're clothed and cleaned and, you know, taken care of and nurtured. And if those needs aren't met over a long period of time, it can have a real kind of damaging effect. So Chiron is basically there kind of saying that this is the time to kind of heal those wounds. It's going to bring up things to the surface for us to be able to look at, especially for you Aries. It is about your value, it is about how you value yourself, because it is in your second house of Taurus. Although it's the sign of Aries that it's in the second house of Taurus. And Taurus is all about our values and our wants and our possessions and how we feel good when we have things. And this is the kind of early stages of learning what feels good and what doesn't feel good for a baby. So it is all about healing and letting go of the past and forgiving those people or those issues, those traumas that we may have felt, or, you know, if we feel these things rise up and we get triggered by these situations, kind of try to look at them from a kind of third person, rather than kind of just allowing those emotions to take over. Kind of give yourself a step back and kind of look and feel the emotion, feel where it's coming from as well, and forgive yourself. That's really one of the big issues here as well, is forgiving yourself, because this is also about kind of birthing something new. It's about birthing a new you in that sense, because it's in Aries. It's a collective thing for everybody, about birthing a new individual, a new, more confident person moving forward, because Chiron will be there for a few more years. So this is going to be a kind of ongoing storyline as well, because this is one of the bigger planets, the outer planets. So the third house of Gemini, which for you Pisces is Taurus, has the planet Uranus in it. And Uranus is the higher consciousness. It's like Mercury is the day-to-day consciousness, the kind of details of day-to-day and communication, and kind of how we learn, the way we learn, what we like to know, that kind of thing. Whereas Uranus is it's the higher energies. It's the kind of bringing in the higher kind of how can you put it, like those sudden realizations that you get, those sudden kind of bolts out of the blue. Literally, Uranus is all about that kind of unexpected change, innovation, bolts out of the blue, sudden unexpected things that we can't have any control over because they just happen. But it's also inspiration as well. It can also bring in these moments that can literally change your life, because it can take you down a pathway that you didn't think that you were necessarily ever going to go down. It's just like one of these kind of light bulb moments as well. It can be very, very kind of fast coming in energy that kind of, just if you grasp it and run with it, it can really make a difference in your life. But it's in Taurus, and so it's in the house of wants and finance, so it's probably going to be making a big change financially on a collective level over the next 7 years, because that's going to be there for 7 years, and it's still retrograde at the moment. And for you yourselves, Pisces, in the third house of Gemini, it is kind of saying, you know, look out for those magical moments. Look out for those kind of sudden bursts of inspiration, because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the day-to-day kind of run-of-the-mill way of thinking, and Uranus, like I said, is these more kind of higher, there's a word I'm trying to think of, that kind of, you know, revelationary moments, those kind of like, where did that idea come from kind of thing, you know, just something that just kind of goes whack through your head, and you kind of like standing there going, wow, what was that? So just kind of be aware of the fact that because it's in Gemini, it's also kind of communication, it's also it's related to the way you think, it's related to the mind, but it's more to do with the change on a sudden kind of unexpected, bolts out the blue, like I said, level. But it could change your physical world and manifest, you know, if you manifest these new ideas, it could have a complete change in your physical world and your financial world as well, because this is the house of Taurus. Oh, sorry, it's in the house, the sign of Taurus, but it's the third house of Gemini, is what I meant there, sorry. So it is, you know, as long as we feel, it's about feeling the value of something as well, and feeling the value of our own self-worth as well, as to how much we believe that we, you know, we can actually allow ourselves to run with an idea, or actually kind of look at something in a light of it being some longer lasting, having a kind of major effect in our lives in a positive way. But Uranus is going to, I feel, just kind of bring in some big changes over the next 7 years for all the signs, but for you Pisces, it's to do with the mind and how you think. So in the fifth house of Leo, you have the in the sign of Cancer, you have the North Node. Now the North Node in the 5th house of Leo, the North Node, I'll give a little bit of an explanation actually first about the nodes themselves, because not everybody knows what the nodes are and what their meanings are as well. So the nodes of the moon is the point of the moon where the moon's orbital path crosses over the ecliptic path of the sun, and it does this twice a year. So you get the south and the north node. So while the north node at the moment is in Cancer, so this is your north node up here, and your south node is in Capricorn. Or we could do that the other way around, Cancer down here and Capricorn up here. So you've got your north node and your south node. There's an axis point between these two. These two are always connected, and they always move retrograde through a planet. So they're always going backwards through a planet, and through a sign, not through a planet. And they always take 18 months to go through each sign. So Cancer and Capricorn axis started last November, and they've been in the sign of Cancer and Capricorn for about a year now, and they will stay there for about another 6 months before they leave. In the house of Leo, which is all about self-identity, conscious awareness, ego, courage, and the sun, of course, being in the spotlight, craving attention, wanting to lead. But being in the sign of Cancer, it speaks about wanting to find a home, a safe place in a storm. The ideal home for you, Pisceans, could well be a castle with a moat, where you can let down the drawbridge as and when you feel like it. To be able to party, but also at the same time have the ability to hide away and not be able to be reached as and when the mood suits. So I feel at the moment you would quite like to be in that kind of scenario where you can just kind of close yourself off to the world as and when you want to. And a moat would be kind of the ideal home, because it is all about Cancer, and Leo is very kind of like being in the spotlight, centre stage, look at me, hey, you know, it's that grandiose energy of the sun, and kind of like, it kind of fits for me, it kind of fits this idea of a castle, a grand castle, the castle being the home, you know, the perfect home, of where we can kind of bring that drawbridge up and kind of just surround ourselves with this moat and not allow anybody else to get in unless we want them there, unless we want them in our lives. And that's kind of the energy that I'm feeling at the moment from this kind of Pisces North Node, in Cancer. But it's also saying that the North Node is the place that we're trying to get to as a collective. The South Node is the energy that we're trying to leave behind. It's the energy that karmically we bring through with us. Indian astrology in particular talks very much about how the South Node is our karma from previous lifetimes. It's what we know, it's what we've learned, it's what we're comfortable with. So when we have times of kind of confusion or things don't feel right for us, we will return to that same energy. And again, because it moves every 18 months, it's different for everybody. So the link down below, you may also be able to find out where your South and your North Node is and how often they change, because it is every year 18 months. And I think Cancer and the Cancer North Node, Capricorn South Node was 18 years ago. I think it happens every 18 years, because you also get your Cancerian South Node and North Node as well, which is a very different energy too. So it's like a ongoing wheel where it changes, because it's kind of doing that. It kind of becomes the opposite as well as it goes round. So this time we have Cancer as the place, because Cancer is the place of home and security. That is literally what Cancerians are about. The mother, childhood, memories, intuition, instinct, the kind of much more instinctual kind of feelings and knowings, and intuitive, very strong, high intuitive energies in the Cancerian energy as well. So this is also about kind of trying to find your home tribe, if you like. You know, there's people that you really resonate with, and kind of, you know, they're the people that you want to kind of gather together in your big castle, Pisces. So you can have this great party where you can pull the drawbridge up and kind of say, right, that's, you know, these are my family, this is my soul tribe, these are the people that I've kind of connected with and want to have at my party. Again, I think, you know, the Leo thing is very much the party animal, really. Leos like to party. I'm not saying that other signs don't, and that you too love to party, Pisces, but Leo loves to be the kind of centre of attention. They love to throw big lavish parties as well. So that is where you have your North Node at this moment in time. So what else? Was there anything else before I carry on and go on to the next one? Yeah, security. Also, just finally, it says at the same time as you're learning to mother, as we're learning to mother ourselves as well, for you Pisceans, it's also a time of learning how to use that roar of Leo, the lion, to fiercely protect that which you love as well. So it's about learning to kind of use that Leo energy in a very kind of protective and like secure way. If things don't feel right to you, learn to kind of refuse to accept it, if you like. Don't just kind of go, oh right, okay, you know, that's fine. Kind of speak up for yourself and, you know, for those that you love as well. So in your 9th house, which is the house of the sign of Scorpio, for you it's the sign of Sagittarius, there's been a heck of a lot of activity in the sign of Scorpio for over the last kind of 8 weeks or so. It is for you the sign of Sagittarius, which of course is where we've also just had the new moon occur as well. So that energy has kind of been activated more so. But although Mercury turned retrograde on the 31st of October, Mercury actually entered into Scorpio at the beginning of October, around about the 3rd of October. Mercury first arrived in Scorpio and made its way through Scorpio, and at the 31st it turned retrograde and started going backwards again. The Sun also entered Scorpio around about the 23rd, I think it is, 22nd, 23rd of October, sorry, and has been kind of made its way right the way past Mercury. So during this time as well, we have had Mercury go over the face of the Sun and conjunct the Sun, going right across the Sun, before it's kind of carried on its way down into the underworld of Scorpio as well, in the sense of it kind of having to go a lot deeper, because when a planet goes retrograde, particularly Mercury, it becomes much more kind of it's like a detective. Mercury becomes very much like the detective. He's kind of going down into the depths of the underworld and the kind of deeper emotional sensing world to discover the things that have been kept hidden, our fears, our secrets, scandals, guilts, all this kind of things are being brought up to the surface because of the Scorpio energy. But because it's Mercury as well, Mercury does not do well in water signs. It's a bit like, you know, thinking of your brain being permanently flooded by water. It's just kind of like, you know, it's a confusing time for Mercury. It's a confusing time for the brain to be able to kind of think normally or straight, or kind of, you know, put two sentences together sometimes and actually make any sense whatsoever. So and so Mercury kind of came out of its retrograde on the 19th of November, and Mars entered the following day on the 20th of November. So there has been a lot of activity, and Mercury is still moving through Scorpio now. It hasn't finished its journey yet. So Mercury has been forward, it's gone back, and now it's going forward again, and it will come out of its own shadow on the 10th of December. So its own shadow is the point where Mercury originally went retrograde. So it needs to go beyond that point for it to actually kind of get beyond all this energy that it has built up, going backwards and forwards over this same point. But now we have Mars, which has just made a opposition with Uranus as well in Taurus, so he's all kind of charged up as well. And Mars is the great activator. That's what Mars does. It activates a sign. It comes in and it activates the energy, particularly energies that have already been. And when it goes over this energy of Mercury again, it will kind of bring things up to the surface even more. So we're going to get a resurge and a kind of a reassessment, shall we say, of the things that we've already kind of been through, that Mercury is still dealing with as well, because Mercury hasn't come out of his shadow period. So there's still a lot of this energy going on. And of course in Scorpio it's very much to do with kind of birth, death, rebirth, kind of sexual energy, scandals, corruption, secrets coming to the surface collectively, and kind of, you know, on the world stage as well as individually as well. So that is very much the Scorpio Pluto energy, and Pluto really does have that kind of, you know, Pluto is the destructive energy. So in many ways it's saying, like, you know, you need to kind of, it needs to be destroyed, it needs to be got rid of, this energy needs to be finished. And that's what Mars will eventually do. As it goes over, it will cut this energy off, but at the same time it's kind of sweeping the rest of it up and kind of really bringing it up to the surface even more. And so, you know, the deep dark secrets and fears that Scorpio has been hiding, and for this placement of 9th house, Pisces, this could be about not being able to achieve your greatest dreams and desires. You just fall flat at times. With your planet now reawakening in your home sign, it's bringing a new faith and a dream, especially as Mars is about to go over this same ground. Mercury has been forward, backwards and forward again. It's basically what I was saying earlier. Yeah, clearing out. Mars is now going to be clearing out the old stagnant energy in order for us to really kind of clear it out, let it go, finish, end of, move on, rebirth, new story, really. That's basically what it's saying here. It's a new story, and there's a much higher dream to be born here as well, because for you it's all taking place in the 9th house of the higher mind, which is ruled by Jupiter and Sagittarius. And of course we've just had Jupiter go over the galactic center as well, so there's a lot of that kind of, that whole activity, the kind of Sagittarius and Scorpio, that kind of 60 degrees of the zodiac, shall we say, has been incredibly active over this last kind of 2 months probably. In fact, the last 2 months there's been a lot of activity within both the Sagittarius and the Scorpio. house. But of course, Jupiter has now left its own sign, and it won't be back there for another 12 years. So it's on its journey, starting a new journey, which is really a good way for kind of, you know, to end this Mercury energy as well, before Mercury kind of moves off into through Sagittarius, over the galactic center as well, and into Capricorn. So the 11th house, Pisces, is your house of Aquarius, and that is the Capricorn placement. And it says, in this placement of the 11th house, Aquarius ruled, it's all about your friendships, communities, the collective, networking, and all things innovative. It is ruled by Uranus and Saturn, the Aquarius house. But it's in your 11th house of Capricorn, so it means you maybe have two, and you've got two major malefics there. There's no major maybe about it. You've got Saturn and Pluto and the South Node in your house of Capricorn at the moment, as we all have, but in your sign of Capricorn, sorry, but in your house of Aquarius. So for you, you may have found that things have been quite difficult within your friendships. And some friendships may have fallen by the wayside. And some friendships you may have had to have worked hard to actually keep on top of, or keep, like, actually make a commitment to, actually keep them going, as in like really find time to keep that friendship alive, if you like. Because Pluto being there as well, Pluto being the destroyer and the kind of ending of things as well, you will find that some friendships just won't make the cuts, whereas other friendships you will want to keep, but you'll also need to build on them. But Pluto has been clearing out what no longer works for you. Fortunately, Venus has now joined this party, which has been very masculine for quite some time, and is bringing in a more kind of softer and more gentle energy with it. And it's kind of saying, look, come on, you know, this is all a bit dull and a bit kind of like, you know, hard work and a bit kind of serious here. You know, we need to kind of lighten up a little bit and allow ourselves to kind of not be quite so severe as well, I feel, on some level. Venus is both the ruler of Taurus and Libra as well. So Venus also wants to find balance and harmony and justice and fairness within the relationships as well. So Venus is also looking for that too. And with both Saturn and Pluto have both been retrograde, she is literally like a breath of fresh air, because she's now going to go over that area of where they have been retrograde. And I think she's probably she's leading the charge basically at the moment, Venus. All the other planets are kind of behind her, apart from the moon, who kind of moves so quickly. But all the rest of the planets, she's in front of Mercury, she's in front of Mars, she's even in front of Jupiter now. The Sun, she's in front of the Sun. So she kind of has really come into this Capricorn, very kind of dull, masculine, kind of old, if you think of like a really old, musty library type of thing, you know, where it's kind of really, there's just these two old men sitting in their chairs and they're not really having a lot of fun. It's like, you know, Venus is going in there and she's going, come on, let's open the curtains and let's kind of open the windows and let's kind of, you know, bring some light in here and bring some levity. And that's really what she's going to be doing, is clearing out those dusty cobweb corners and saying, like, you know, this isn't much of a party, is it? Because also, you know, Venus has also been conjunct Jupiter at the galactic center as well. So she's really charged up too. So she's kind of bringing in this new, fresh energy of kind of light and love, really, and just saying, come on, you know, come on, guys. Stop being kind of so just like old school teachers, really. vision I get. These two old school teachers in their big leather chairs sitting there in the dark having conversations about things that are really dull. And Venus is kind of saying that's enough. That's enough of that. Let's get some joy and lightness in here. And also with Jupiter moving in as well, there is going to be some kind of more joy, but there's also going to be an expansion of energy there as well. So Venus is kind of leading the charge, and she's literally like the charge of the light brigade. That is literally what she's doing. She is bringing in some light into these very kind of dusty corners and saying, you know, help's on its way. Jupiter's going to be following close behind me as well. So that's the messages for your astrology today, Pisces. I hope you've enjoyed them. Like I say, they are intuitive. I do just kind of get these channels that I just write down, these channeled messages, and I'm just going to kind of put them out there for you. You can do what you want with them, take them if you want, if they resonate with you, if you feel any connection with them. It'd be quite interesting if you'd like to comment below as well and let me know whether or not you are actually finding anything in them. It would be quite nice to have some feedback. My email is also in the description box below, as well as the natal chart for free, the natal link, sorry, for the free chart. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much, Pisces, for listening, and I hopefully will see you next time. Take care.